Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Innovation Tech Talks. You're chopping it up with Chuck, and we are here today with a very special guest coming to us from all the way around the globe. We have with us today Epi Ludvik, who is the founder and CEO of Crowdsourcing Week. How you doing, Epi?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Charles.
Thank you for joining us. You got up very early to join us, didn't you?
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. here in Singapore, but it's worth it.
It's well, it's awesome. It's awesome to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit. First of all, how are you? How's everything going? You know, these are crazy times right now. How's everything going for you?
Well, it's the in these crazy times, you just got to keep up with the positivity and eliminate the negativity. So we have this policy in our team and our family too that no negativity allowed. So any negative news, we just throw it out.
You seem like a pretty positive guy. I bet does that come natural for you?
Well, it's like life is about bringing that positivity and live that experience in a positive way, right? So
yeah.
It's a short experience, and in this earth we have this mission that we just have to enjoy life.
Yeah, even during a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing you have a choice, and the choice that either you want to focus on things that are going to make you sick, or things that are going to make you good. And so we decided that we need to make sure that we got to focus on the good things. And there's a lot of good news out there. There's a lot of good things that are happening today out there. And as long as you keep your mind focused on positivity, good things will follow you.
Yeah, I think somebody once said, focus equals feeling. Whatever you focus on, you're going to feel, because your brain, if you start focusing on it and thinking about it, your brain will start experiencing it and your body will start experiencing it, whether you were there or not. So it's sometimes important to make sure that, you watch what you're focusing on, because you can focus on the negative and then start to actually experience it in your body, without it even really happening to you.
Yeah, it's kind of like asking this question to people: what are you feeding your subconsciousness with?
Yeah.
Right? So if you're feeding your subconsciousness with negative stuff, then don't expect your actions to be positive.
Right. That's pretty incongruent. Tell us a little bit about your background. Before we dive into it here, just want to know about you. You've got a really interesting background. So tell our audience a little bit about it.
Maybe I'll start halfway, because not many people know my story. But I was born in Kosovo. It's a little tiny country it was back then, it used to call former Yugoslavia. And so as a young boy, I used to play cello, classical music. And from there, things start to get worse. My dad passed when I was 10 years old. So my mom and with 4 of our siblings. And so it was a very tough time. So I understand what's to be in a very tough environment. And I experienced that myself. Long story short, when at the age of 16 plus, I had an uncle in New York. So, and then I went to New York and stayed with him. And from there, that was my beginning journey in being in US. And when you're in New York, you have to drop all the things. You have to do what you got to do, right? So I started working all kinds of work, from pizza delivery to doorman to construction, just to make sure that I'm sending money to my mom. That was my goal.
Right.
From there on, I went to university, studied advertising in Fashion Institute of Technology. And after I graduated, I decided that, well, it's my time to pretty much go and do and follow my passion. So I opened my own bar. So I had a bar in Lower East Side for 2 years. After 2 years, I said, no, this is not going to work for me. So I sold it, lost money, as usual. Yeah, very few people make money with bar.
Yeah.
Even though the alcohol is quite expensive, you can charge a lot of money for it, but it's a completely different story. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't. And from there on, I went back to my advertising world. And in late 2008, I started my own advertising agency in New York, a boutique ad agency. Kept it for 4 years. And that was the beginning of this Crowdsourcing Week journey. When we did an event, when we say we, it's my agency and a partner agency. we did an event during Internet Week in New York, was how crowdsourcing changing advertising business models. And from there, it was this beginning. It was like, wow, you know, crowdsourcing is bigger than advertising marketing. What am I doing with this ad agency? Why don't I just start Crowdsourcing Week? So that was the birth of a Crowdsourcing Week. Fast forward a year and a half later, I decided to pretty much start this global journey. And of course, you know, I had a choice to do it in New York or San Francisco or US, because US was pretty much like leading in this conversation. But then I looked at the conversations in Asia, and Asia represented such a big crowds. I said, well, I got to be in Asia. And so I packed my bags, came here to Singapore without knowing anybody, started from scratch. And then from here, we just kind of went all over the world. So we've done over 30 plus conferences in 25 countries in 4 continents. And our focus has been from day one to bring the conversation of crowdsourcing online and offline.
That is fascinating. So you've always been kind of would it be safe to say you've always been a pretty entrepreneurial kind of guy?
Well, the entrepreneurship, it's about taking a risk. And of course, when you learn being a true entrepreneur, you start to take calculated risks than just any risks. But you learn that from those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
But you know, in the end of the day, like, what are you? So the true definition of this entrepreneurship is like you are entering for the price. So my question always I ask to the entrepreneurs, why are you entering for this price? And so if you don't know the true price, because the true price should not just be the money itself, right? It's got to be bigger. It's got to be that mission that you're aiming for. If you don't know that true price, then you're going to probably struggle, I would say.
Yeah, I think that there has been almost a glorification of entrepreneurship, maybe even recently, especially, you know, with social media and Instagram and, you know, look, you own your own business, then you get a yacht, and then you get this, and then you get that. And I think that sometimes, and it's starting to come out now, you know, with people like Gary Vaynerchuk and, you know, such, that they're like, listen, entrepreneurship it can be really, really good. It also can be a lot of work, and you kind of got to know, you know, what you're getting into. It's not all yachts and champagne and, you know, ribbon cuttings and, you know, things like that. There's really a lot of work, a lot of uncertainty, you know, probably stress is something that entrepreneurs, you know, have a lot, because, you know, if something goes wrong and you're the boss, it's all on you. You know, it's totally up to you.
You know, it's like you have to be willing to go through pain for a long period of time. That's pretty much like what true entrepreneur goes to it. And so it's not like a 2-year thing or a 4 years thing or 5 years thing. It's a pretty much, you need to make sure that you are a firefighter. You're every single day. You're in crisis every single day.
I feel that.
You're not doing the right thing. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, right. That's funny. I'd say it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. You know, that's really what being an entrepreneur is. Sometimes crazy hours and, you know, a lot of travel and stuff. So we want to talk about crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing to me is fascinating. It's super innovative. It just is it's almost endless with the potential. But for our audience that isn't familiar, what are the basics of crowdsourcing?
Yeah, great example. Well, you know, a lot of time that I've been talking about crowdsourcing, by default, people always come back to me with the crowdfunding. And the reason for that is because crowdfunding is much easier to be understood, because you're asking crowds to fund your project or idea, whatever it may be, right? But then when it comes to crowdsourcing, it becomes a bit more hard to grasp. And the reason why is because it's just, you can do it in so many ways. And one way to think about it is a collective consciousness. And the reason why it's a collective consciousness, because now you have individuals or groups of people who are coming together for a particular project, a particular thing that they believe on, and they want to bring forward their meaningful results with their actions and their activities. So the reason why they're part of that project sometimes it's not just about money. It's about because they believe so strong in that particular project that they're willing to give their time and energy and even money. And one great example that I always bring is Wikipedia, for example. We all know Wikipedia. We all been to pages of Wikipedia. Primarily Wikipedia, it is managed by crowds of editors who are editing these pages from all over the world with their skills and talents and education background that they have. And also now on top of it, they're also the core team of people who are coming from all over the world who are also funding it in the same time. They are paying to keep that Wikipedia alive. So you may ask probably a question, why would they do that? Well, because they believe of what the core mission of Wikipedia is.
Uh-huh. And
So
that enough people can buy into it that they will make it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So once you define that mission when you're doing a crowdsourcing project, and once you define that mission for that particular project, then you have something really interesting that you can apply crowdsourcing. So, we have all kinds of resources. We have beyond our tangible resource, we have non-tangibles, and those are probably more valuable, than anything. We have, I don't know what I was reading the other day. We have an average person gets around 75 thoughts a day. Now, in those thoughts, you probably have so many ideas coming to you, but all those ideas, they just come and go. They're just stay in your head, but that's it. Now, think about platforms that you can connect those ideas with other thousands of people. That's incredible.
Ah, yeah. So when you have that great idea at that moment of inspiration, when that light bulb goes off over your head, if you don't do something with that idea, then it's just like gone, and it doesn't bring any good to anybody. I mean, you might the next day say, man, I had a great idea last night, but it's not the same as actually putting it towards a belief or a cause or a mission.
Yeah. And so if we all have the willingness to bring that idea somewhere. We just don't know how.
Yeah.
And sometimes for a lot of people, when they think about those things, they think about mechanics first.
Uh-huh.
So not everyone is born to be a true innovator, true entrepreneur, but I believe every human being is an innovator. So we all have innovative ideas, and the opportunity here is that we can channel these ideas with the right platforms, which we can talk later about this.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, I started thinking, okay, so what are some real life examples of, of crowdsourcing? And I started thinking of a movement. I thought maybe Congress, and then I was like, yeah, it's probably not a very good example. They don't get much done. But with science, is the scientific process, we've got one mission that we're trying to do it. Everybody's working together, to solve it. And they share, a lot of times they share data, they share results. Is the scientific process crowdsourcing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, what we have today is we have a massive opportunity to bring the scientists to work together with people in the field to solve the problems. And I think that is not happening. And partially that's not happening is because we see it very clearly. There's a lot of censorship happening out there, and there are all kind of different forces they do not want to see that happen. But I believe very strongly that if you look at, for example, just for a moment, there's this magic of 100,000 people coming and working together. And I'll give you 3 great examples. So with 100,000 people, we coming together and working together, we were able to send man on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With 100,000 people coming together and working together, we were able to get Panama Canal.
Yeah.
And pyramids And also you have the ancient in the Great Wall of China too.
Yeah.
So
Great
now,
wonders of the world.
exactly, these are just incredible. But think about this now. Now we have all the tools, We have all the tools, and we're not bringing 100,000 people working together for the common good. So there's something that's happening here that it's hard to pinpoint. But all I'm saying is we have all the tools. We just need that collective consciousness. We need to promote that collective consciousnness. All right?
Yeah.
So people are aware of it, that, oh my God, wait a minute. I'm now in front of a computer and I can be channeled in these environments that I can bring my contribution.
Yeah.
Instead of just me being on Facebook and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with the Facebook, but if you spend most of the time in Facebook,
there's a lot wrong with Facebook, Epi.
There are.
Yeah.
Not to the extent like what everybody says.
Sure.
But yeah, there. I think we can do a lot better, I would say.
I think what you're touching on is so powerful, because you said something about consciousness, and right now, we're in an increasingly I don't know, divided world right now, where we can't agree on facts, we can't agree on science, we can't agree on a lot of basic things, just real fundamental building blocks. And I remember talking to Bill Nye the Science Guy, and he talked about his parents were part of the greatest generation, right? So they were the ones that really, they sacrificed a lot. They came together, they fought to defend freedom and liberty in the world, and the odds were against them, and they did it. And it was this great accomplishment because, like you said, everybody came together, nations came together, and people came together, and Republicans and Democrats came together. And he feels that, just as one example, the thing about climate change, if everybody came together and we faced this just like we faced the Nazis, or just like we faced some horrible threat, we could probably accomplish some great things if we had that collective consciousness that, hey, this is the next big thing for us to come together and work on. We're just not there yet. Collectively, we don't look at it that same way. But I agree. It seems like when we come together, if we were fighting aliens that were coming to invade us or something, we would all come together, and all of our collective talents would crowdsource, the best solutions there. I think it's the whole coming together part that sometimes we can't get out of our own way.
I was going to add something that Chuck was saying that's very interesting to me, perhaps an obstacle to crowdsourcing, because like when I think of crowdsourcing, and obviously using a collective to come up with a potential idea to either implement a project or a boutique ad agency. My curiosity, though, is how do you get that many people working together cohesively? Like in the scientific community, a great deal of problems is that there's so many differentiating opinions on climate change, a lot of scientific competition. So I'm wondering how do you battle through that? Like in particular, like even in product base. So you're creating a crowdsourced project to create a boutique ad agency. You also use crowdsourcing in terms of the products that you promote and those kind of things. I'm wondering how that plays out with so much competition out there.
Yeah, well, so there's a gentleman, Louis von On. He runs his platform called Duolingo. I'm not sure if you guys have come across Duolingo, but it's pretty much a crowdsourced application, a platform for learning a language, pretty much. Back about 10 years ago, he created this particular tool, and this tool ended up in Google's hands. They bought it from him. But basically, you've probably seen that before. It's called reCAPTCHA.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, in a reCAPTCHA, what it does, like it asks you to fill out even like a little word there, or now they're doing with the images. But basically now what Google is doing, and that is a completely crowdsourced model, what it does, like every time you're going and doing a reCAPTCHA with a word, you are helping Google digitizing books online. So now you're thinking about billions of people going it, and giving that little 2 seconds or 3 seconds, and you bring that collectively. You and I, we have no clue that we're crowdsourcing it, but Google had it very clear how they can implement crowdsourcing in their environment, so they don't have to hire hundreds or thousands of people just to do that, because humans are not born to do boring stuff. We're born to do creative stuff. That's why I'm so happy that we have robots coming in, because we can give those jobs to robots. So we don't have to do the job of a robot. We can be a true humans. But the problem exists that we try to make humans a robots, and that's a big problem that we have also.
Wow. So even Amazon, like their ratings on products, that's crowdsourced, right? Everybody goes and puts their rating in, what they like, they didn't like, and then it comes up with like a crowdsourced rating, or, restaurants and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there are so many ways of using it, but this kind of example, it shows that even into that level of a micro task, you're able to bring people without people even knowing that they're a part of that, but you're just implemented as a part of your way to get access to a specific thing. In this case, is for Google getting access to whatever the information people are looking for. So, and this kind of example shows that we have all the technology. Imagine if we can probably have billions of people today. All right, think about this for a moment. We can have billions of people today. Just give that little micro task for scientific discovery, and this billion people can come from people that we probably not heard much from them. I'm sure we will probably have a much bigger ideas than what we have. Albert Einstein, he said this. He said, we cannot solve the problems with the people who created it in the first place. All right, and this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the scientists, whatever, they're solving the problem, or we're trying to get these people who are solving the problem, who pretty much they created those kind of models, and we're expecting breakthroughs.
I love it.
How are we going to get there? And so that's the question. So unless we really enlighten, so it's about enlightening people, awaken people with collective consciousness, bring them forward and connect them and channel them with the right tools. This is what the future of humanity looks like. But if we want to have a systematic artificial intelligence that has probably nothing human, then we're going the wrong way. And I think this is the tension that we're seeing. We're seeing a tension that one side wants to go that way, another side wants to go this way. And I think that's what it's all about. So I'm not talking about politics, but I'm just talking about the environment that we live in today. People are still not so awakening to think like, wait a minute, God has given me 24 hours, the same thing that given 24 hours to the king or the queen or to the president,
Yeah.
God is so fair. So if God is so fair, am I unfair to my time, myself, how I'm spending my time?
Wow. That's a great question. And I always think that you should go to break off the heels of an Albert Einstein quote. That should just always be a nice segue. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick commercial break right now. We'll be back in just a minute. You're chopping it up with Chuck and Joe, and we are here with Epi Ludvik, the CEO and founder of Crowdsourcing Week. And we're also going to talk about, when we get back, as a culture, you get what you celebrate. A great man once taught me that, and I truly believe it. So we're going to talk about actually celebrating the bold and talk about the Be Bold Awards as soon as we get back right after these messages.
Today's episode of Innovation and Tech Talks is brought to you by Generac, the #1 name in home backup generators. Generac manufactures a range of power products, including portable, residential, commercial, and industrial generators. Generac is also committed to bringing forth a long-term vision that creates environmentally responsible products, processes, and partnerships. Visit Generac.com to learn more and see their incredible line of products.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Innovation Tech Talks. You are chopping it up with Chuck and Joe. We are the editors at Innovation and Tech Today, your favorite award-winning publication. And we're here today talking crowdsourcing with Epi Ludvik, the founder and CEO of Crowdsourcing Week. And I learned more about crowdsourcing the last 15 minutes than I knew in my whole life. It's such an interesting topic because it's kind of simple, but it's also kind of complicated. Why do you think more people aren't familiar with the term crowdsourcing?
Well, here's so when I started Crowdsourcing Week 7 years ago, there was a negative connotation to it, and the reason why people were linking crowdsourcing with outsourcing, and as you know, outsourcing was more about finding that cheap labor, and that's about it. And so I looked at the true potential of what this can do for the world. And when I saw that true potential, when I was convinced, when I had that conviction that I said, my God, this could be a solution to all the problems that we have, I said, no, it cannot be in relation to the outsourcing. So I was pretty much like, I took that narrative from people thinking about, oh, it's outsourcing and negative, to bring like oh my God, it's crowdsourcing and it's positive, it's about humanity, and that's what we're in. So now I think we're in the right direction. We have a lot of education to do, of course, but our mission has been focused pretty much. We want to make sure that we are unlocking this human potential and bring forward this collective consciousness that I was just talking about through crowdsourcing in every industry and sector. So we're powering breakthroughs together, working with crowdsourcing platforms in each sector and making them focused in terms of the expansion and bringing on those type of the tools to people through them.
Powering breakthroughs together. That's great. That's awesome.
So that's the only way that we'll be able to do it. And so our partners are pretty much the focus, and with them together we are helping breakthroughs happening.
So tell us about the awards, the Bold Awards. Tell us about being bold, because I think this is where did this come about, and how is it related to Crowdsourcing Week?
Yeah, well, so Bold program, it started about 2.5 years ago. I always had people coming to me say, why don't you have an awards program for Crowdsourcing Week? And for me, awards was a very I didn't want to do it halfway. And actually, not just awards, but anything. I just don't want to do it halfway. I rather just focus and do it all the way. And it was the right timing, doing this with the right partner. So us at Crowdsourcing Week and an organization called H-Farm, which stands for Human Farm. They're based outside of Venice, Italy. They're one of the most unique and probably one of the largest innovation campus in Europe, which they have a focus on the education, digital transformation, but also a focus on the innovation for enterprises. So we came together, we created this program. It's called Bold Awards, which it has a category in crowdsourcing, but we've gone beyond crowdsourcing. Now we have over 20 categories that range from the agri-tech to AI and robotics and so on. And the whole idea is this is an annual program that runs for a good 8 months online. Primarily, it's driven by submissions, and we have 3 rounds of submissions. And after that, we do have we open that up for public voting. Once that public voting happens, then we have the judges coming in, and they do the selection of the nominees. And at the end, we have this beautiful gala dinner, very elegant black tie for 250 people at H-Farm, where you have people from 40 plus countries, all these nominees and judges and partners and people who apply to attend, which is very selective. And they all come together under one roof, and it's full of learning, entertainment, and networking.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at it here too. Like the categories that you have are like, and this is worldwide, right? So this is, yeah,
Yeah, this is totally global. Unfortunately, for a second edition that we did, we had to postpone it given the fact that it was the pandemic in Italy in the same time in March. So our
mm,
dinner for Bold 2, we're just doing it together with a Bold 3, and that will be for next year in March 2021. I can't believe we're going to be in 2021. And it's just crazy. It's going by so fast.
oh man, it's been such a fun year. Ah, look at these categories, Joe. We've got Boldest AI, Boldest Remote Working Company, Boldest Advertising. I love advertising when it's done right. This is really, really cool. So you have all these different categories, and you had a gala, like everybody all dressed up, you know, really nice, like a red carpet type affair. And then the
Yeah.
pandemic comes.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we wanted to make sure that the standards are very high. So
Mhm.
we have a very strict um, uh, a model when it comes to like when people come, they're got to make sure they got to be dressed um, in a black tie. It's pretty much like we want to we want to be one of those Oscars for the
Yeah.
digital age, for digital industries. So our third edition, what we're doing, we're adding other categories. So now we have 20 plus categories for the third edition. We'll be announcing that in sometimes in September, and that this program is so amazing because we thought, for example, Crowdsourcing Week, we thought that we pretty much know almost everybody in crowdsourcing. And just because of that category that we put on Bold, we're able to discover amazing crowdsourcing platforms. They are out there in the world. Yeah, so it's a great discovery tool. So we're discovering amazing entrepreneurs, amazing people who are working for corporations. And this is what it's about, is really taking things to another level where if you look at most of the awards that you see today,
Mhm.
they're very industry focused, and a lot of times, like those criteria in those industries, it does not allow the other people to come in and even apply for it, right? And here it allows everybody to apply as long as you fit, as long as you think that you will be nominated based on our criteria for being selected. So.
Wow, wow. And how would someone be nominated?
Well, you can definitely just go and submit your program. So
Mhm.
basically, what people submit, they can submit their project or their company, and anyone can do that. But then when it comes to the selection of the nominees, is pretty much like the public voting first. So the public decides who would be those nominees, those 5 nominees for each category. And once the public decides, so that's half of the vote. And then you have the judges coming in, they weigh their own half vote for those nominees, and they select five nominees out of all submissions from each category.
So what let me ask you, I mean, what do you think about events? Because you know, obviously this is a major event. This is tremendous. I mean, the Oscars for the digital age. I love it. And I really truly believe as a culture you get what you celebrate. So we should celebrate innovation, and we should celebrate, you know, science just as much as we celebrate the you know, athletes, and just as much as we celebrate the movies. But what do you think about events now? I mean, they've been absolutely devastated. Maybe one of the industries hit hardest, you know, because of COVID. What do you think that means for events now and then moving forward?
I think for events, for physical events, they will be around, but you're gonna have only a top in terms of the experiences. People are looking for experiences. If you looked at the last few years in the event industry, the ones who were doing very well with events, they were focused all a lot around experiences. But then to put all those experiences that takes so much time and effort, And so not any company is focused or can do that, because it takes a tremendous amount of time, money, and energy. But I believe that, you know, in our case, for example, we stopped all the physical events. The only physical event that we have is pretty much this gala dinner. Everything's for us virtual, and we have no intention to go back on a physical context to do event, because for us, like, you know, when we look at it, like, today you have tools, but I think the future of the tools that are coming for events are going to be much better. And that will pretty much solve 90% of the problem, right, for people. So with the advancement on a VR, for example, right, right now it's still in an early stage, but once you have Apples and Facebooks of the world moving that direction with the right gadgets, I think we're going to see a much different experiences. And literally, when you think about all that wastage, think about for how many people had to fly and time and, you know, all that stuff that goes into it just to be there. It's just too much. On the other hand, I also strongly believe that the getting together like this, it kind of, you know, it solves the problem, but it doesn't solve the whole entire problem. There are certain things about human emotions that you can't really see it, you can't be in it until you're in a physical context. So I think that itself, maybe a VR can probably get closer to it, but still nothing will replace the physical getting together, I would say.
Yeah, like a VR handshake, you know, like it's still not a handshake. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, because you know why? The handshake should weigh, right?
Yeah.
That should have a weight, right? So there's this study that I heard the other day. A guy was talking about in the after the World War II, the man's handshake weight was 180 pounds, an average. 180 pounds.
Because they were tough.
Right, exactly.
They were fighting in wars.
Today it's like below 80. Men's so I think the VR is like trying to get it to zero.
It's like a 40 or something like that. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that we have a need for love and connection. And I think that need happens at events when you see your friends, you see, you know, the familiar faces, you get to hang out with them. It's still cool to do it, you know, over the internet, but it's not the same. It's not the same as, you know, that physical connection. So I think that in the future that events will, you know, they'll morph, they'll change a little bit. I think we'll still have in-person events. But I think that, like you said, technology will improve and, you know, virtual events will be a real thing, especially when you weigh and consider travel time, you know, flight delays, cost of attending, you know, there's a lot of pros and cons between both of them. But I do think that the future is going to be a virtual reality type platform and not just, you know, a Zoom screen and, you know, a little menu of things that you can do. I think virtual events are definitely going to be a thing even after the pandemic, but I also think we have a kind of a hunger for that, you know, connection to be able to get together in person as well.
Yeah, it's also behaviors, Charles. You know, it takes a while to inherit or to change the behaviors, but I think once people are all in with those new set of behaviors, then people will not go back to those old behaviors. And so we're starting to see that change in a positive way. And I think if we're able to do that, we will become much more productive, much more efficient. And I think stuff like this can make us much more efficient. But on the other hand, you have people who used to work for the corporate world, and they used to go to the office, and they're used to the office politics, and now they bring office politics at home, and they're not disciplined, so it becomes a really productive environment.
Hey, Joe, what do you think? You're a big sports guy. We were talking about this before too. Events include sports, right? Big gatherings of people. And we've seen around the world, sports leagues have had to figure out how to do sports during COVID. And we've seen some be very innovative. We've seen some do some really cool stuff, I think, with technology, digital fans, superimposed on the side of the courts and NBA, more cameras available. And then we've seen some, Major League Baseball, they've got cardboard cutouts. I think in Korea for baseball, they put stuffed animals, in the crowd so that it wouldn't do that. What do you think? Are sports going to always be different after this? And what do you think about the innovation, that you've seen?
Much like any other sort of thing that hits the market, whether it was 9/11 or anything that sort of shocks the market, there's always some residual protocols that stay around. And down the road, like I was on an airplane the other day, my son has no idea why TSA does it the way they do it. He wasn't around for 9/11. And I think in 15 or 20 years, there'll be some changes for all things where large gatherings are, because of this pandemic. And not just because of this pandemic, but because I think it brings light on that we are a global population now. We're not just a bunch of isolationists anymore. I mean, even though a lot of people want to be, we're not. We're a global society. And as a result, pandemics and, air travel, there are going to be future problems too. But so I tend to think with events, I agree 110% with both of you guys in that there will be, obviously, there's nothing can take the place of interaction, interpersonal, that touch, that feel, that smell. That will always be there. But in the future, I do believe, and Chuck, you've mentioned this many times in the past, that, a lot of the larger event companies, they're going to keep going, but everybody's going to be offering these virtual options now. And to pick up on you did, Epi, I also believe that a lot of the smaller companies, they're going to be not doing events. And as the technology comes in, it's easier to use. Those smaller companies, they're going to be using all virtual sort of events. As far as sports go, that is a conundrum to me. At the end of the day, sports in general were born as a spectator event, and all about the live. I mean, people tell me, we've heard all our lives, hey, if you don't like baseball, you need to go to a game. If you don't like hockey, just go to a game. How are some sports are going to win new audiences now? They relied on seeing somebody's face up against the glass, teeth out, that whole thing. So I do know that technology will be involved on how we resolve this issue, but you have to think in the future, all these large expo centers and TD conventions, all these things you see around, it makes you wonder how viable they will be in the future. How many companies are going to say, you know what, let's build a big exposition hall. Why? Wait a minute, so sports is a conundrum.
We need innovative business models. They're more a long term than a short term. And definitely, the world is going through the whole transformation. We are in the information age. Information age is a whole exponential growth in many ways. We need to understand that also that world that we left of a dig and burn is no longer. Now it's all about circular. What can we do with this glass after it's broken? We don't destroy it, right?
Yeah.
So all these things, we need to make sure that now we're going to be much more conscious about it and about the environment that we create for ourselves. And I think this is going to be a great thing. We just have to go through this grind, because through this grind, you see there's a tension that's coming from all the environment. There's from vested interests, people who invest in old businesses. Now they don't want to see that happen. So that's tension. So until that is being fixed, and now everybody's like focused, they say, okay, well, this is what the future is. Then I think we're going to have a really great. I strongly believe that the future economy will be a flow economy. That's my belief. And a flow economy, that I look at it like it is something that there's no wastage, almost very, very, very small wastage, pretty much. Yeah. And that flow economy just connect all the dots. And I think with the advancement of the AI and everything else, if we use it in the right way, I'm talking about using it the right way, I think we're going to have an abundance economy that's just going to keep flowing, and everybody will be tuned in to Mars. Will be our just a little island. We have a lot more out there.
Technology is coming so fast, and I love talking to you because you have such a passion for it. You know, it's great to have you on the show here and just be able to, you know, I feel like we could talk for a long time, but I know we've got to go here soon. But man, this is fascinating stuff, and it's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Charles.
Well, everybody, unfortunately, we do have to go. But before we do, first, Epi, let people know where they can get a hold of you, where they can find out about the Bold Awards. You know, just a good time for a little shout out right here so people can get a hold of you. Yeah,
great. Well, you can find out all the information on crowdsourcingweek.com. And also, if you want to go directly to Bold Awards, you can go to bold-awards.com. You have all the information. And for anyone who wants to email me, you can all find me, and you can just Google my name, Epi Ludvik. You'll find my email. You'll find everything there. So I'm very open guy, very simple life, and yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I can't wait till I can actually see you in person.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about this. We're going to meet up at one of these events or in DC or, you know, something like that. But no, it's really been great to have you here. Joe, you got any closing thoughts or anything?
One quick question. I wanted you to really give us one example of the boldest AI winner. Give me an example of who was that.
Well, yeah, you put me in a spot right now.
Well, boldest, that's a great word.
The boldest that was not part of a Bold Award, right? So maybe I'm thinking here an AI boldest. That's an interesting. I need to think about it. I don't have on top of my head.
Did you see that robot made by Hanson Robotics? What is that, Sophia? The first robot that has artificial intelligence. Have you seen about that? She's been at a couple events that I was, and they even gave her, I think they gave her legs or something like that, but she is completely artificial intelligence. That kind of blew me away when I saw that. Sophia, isn't that her name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
She's capable of learning, acclimating, answering questions, evolving as you speak to her. It's pretty inspiring yet alarming.
I'm reading this book. I'm not sure if you guys read this book before. It's the AI Superpower, China, Silicon Valley, and the New World Order. It's really fascinating because if we think that the world has seen a true AI, wait till we go to China. And so, and this is what this book is about, talks about the whole new class of the AI entrepreneurs and AI startups that are just incredibly amazing what they're doing out there with innovation. And so we're always used to like think on a Western terms in terms of all these companies, but China has some serious AI companies. I'm on my halfway, so I still have not come to the true. So I'll come back with an answer to that.
Yeah, I'll come back and let us know.
Hard too.
I love that. Yeah, I think there was a Twitter account that they made artificial intelligence. Maybe it was like Dell, or it was one of those that had like this artificial intelligence powered Twitter account, and they just let it go. And a couple days later, like they had to shut it down because it was spouting all this racist stuff, and it had just completely jumped the shark. Yeah, we covered it. It was a couple of years ago, and it had gone bad. You know, it was good AI gone bad. So you know, we'll see what's going on
right there.
Yeah.
Good AI gone bad.
Well, anyways, it was super awesome to have you here. I'll see you again soon. Everybody that's listening, remember to check out Crowdsourcing Week and the Bold Awards. And again, if you enjoyed this episode of Innovation Tech Talks, go ahead and make sure that you subscribe and share with your friends. And don't forget to follow the conversation on social media at InnoTech Today across all of your different platforms here. Today's guest, Epi Ludvik, you are the man. Thank you for joining us so early over there. It is always a pleasure, and you are welcome back anytime, sir. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. So looking forward to the next one.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Again, you've been chopping it up with Chuck and Joe on another episode of Innovation Tech Talks. We'll catch you next time. Take care.